All right, well, welcome everyone to Startup Week. Who's been to a session so far before this? My name's Scotty. I'm a co-chair of the product track. I was a newbie this year working on product track. So all the sessions here are put on by volunteers. Everyone submits amazing ideas and then you guys vote on them. It's one of the amazing things about Startup Week is just how it's put on by the Denver community and broader community, I should say. So before we get started, I just want to thank all of you for taking the time to come. I hope you enjoy the week. It is energizing, it's fun, there's lots of great socializing events and great ways to connect with the local community here. I know in the last 3 years where we haven't been in person, lots of people have moved here. So I hope to see fresh faces and lots of good opportunities to connect in the coming days. For these sessions, specifically the product track, we're sponsored by, I should know this, Pi Insurance. So there's lots of good goodies over there. They're taking care of the product track for us. Just wanted to thank Amazon, Capital One, Dell, and Downtown Denver Partnership. It really wouldn't be possible without them. I mentioned it's a lot of volunteers, but everything behind that isn't volunteering and it makes the rest of it happen. So with that, I'm excited to introduce Megan, who's going to be talking about a very important topic that I'll be listening in, but one that makes or breaks a project. So with that, Megan, take it away.
Hi guys, welcome. Today we are going to be talking about, can you guys hear me or should I use the mic? Back? Good, great. So we are going to be talking about the engineering kickoff call. So if you take nothing else away from this, take away these three things. You want to have the right people, you want to have the right content, and you want to have the right relationships for this call. That's it. Just remember those three things. So let me ask a question. How many of you have been handed an epic, handed a feature? There is no scope. There has been no meeting. There has been no discussion, and run with it, product manager or whoever you are. Hands? Show of hands? Yep, me too, guys. And it turns into a dumpster fire. So I'm sure we've all experienced that, and the reason that I was so passionate about talking about an engineering kickoff call is I don't want anyone to experience this again. And the engineering kickoff call can really help you avoid that. So let me tell you about my personal experience, dumpster fire. I'll keep it short since most of you have experienced one. At my previous company, an engineer decided part-time he was going to change our entire dashboard. Awesome, great. Nobody talked about it. There was no scope. There was no agreement. Eventually, he got busy. He's an engineer, of course he did. And it was passed to me, a product manager. It went over time. It went over budget. There was no one talking to our account managers who use that dashboard every single day. Nobody talked to our users. So, as can be expected, dumpster fire. 3 months over, angry account managers, which nobody wants, confused users. So here I am to talk to you about the engineering kickoff call so you don't experience that. Let me introduce myself. My name is Megan Batdorf. Scotty already introduced me, but just again, I have been in product for 10 years. I started off in multifamily product. If any of you are not familiar with multifamily, large apartment complexes, then I moved into MarTech, where I am today. I'm obsessed with product culture. I think when you have a strong team and collaboration, you build better products. So as I mentioned before, the three things to take away from this meeting and the cornerstones are the right people in this kickoff call, the right content, and the right relationships. So let's start with the first one. Who are these right people? I realize all of you have different teams, different size companies, but these are my recommendations. So take them as you will and apply them to your company. Obviously, a product manager, that's what I am. A UX UI person, I have played that role as a product manager, as I'm sure many of you have, but if you have them, fantastic, include them. An engineer who's going to be working on that feature or that epic, you want them in this meeting, or engineers, if there's multiple. And if you have a data scientist, yay for you. And a data architect, even better, include them as well. They're gonna have thoughts on what you're building, how you're building it, and how information is being passed. Biggest recommendation, try to keep it less than 6 people. The reason I say that, and this visual helped me understand why, the more people, the more lines of communication. When you have 3 people, there are 3 lines of communication. It grows exponentially. The more lines of communication that you have, the easier it is for miscommunication. Keep it small, keep your group tight, and you'll have a better, I promise, and more successful kickoff call. So why are we choosing these different people? These are the people who are going to help you build alignment. They're going to help you define the scope. You'll know how much work is involved in this epic that you're building. They're going to help you understand what resources you have. Maybe this isn't the right time to work on that specific thing. They can help you understand that. You can present use cases, both your UX person, your UI person, and yourself as the product manager. And you can bring it back to the user and all get alignment around why you're doing what you're doing. This team, they are your people. They are going to help you present this to your internal stakeholders, whoever that is for you. Maybe it's your CEO, maybe it's your CTO. Whoever it is, they're going to help you come as a unified front. So we know who is in this meeting, or who we would like in this meeting. So let's talk about what is the content that we're going to talk about in this engineering kickoff call. I am about to use an acronym that I know will make some people shudder. It is BRD, I know, a business requirement doc. You might call it an epic doc. You might call it a PRD, a product requirements doc. Whatever it is your universal truth of what you're going to be working on. And this is what you want to bring to that meeting. So what I did is I actually took a real BRD that I built in Confluence, and I'm showing you all the different things that I include. I will take you through each one. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't apply to you, don't use it. But this is what I have found helpful in my current position with those team members. So the first thing is I like to have an objective. Why are we doing this? What is the problem that we're solving? In this example, I work for, as I said, a MarTech company. We were building different lists, and I wanted the users to understand the health of those lists before they agreed to build it, because they only got a certain amount of lists. So with this, we were building a list preview and a list profile once they built it, so they could understand how good the list was to reach out to different clients. So I stated our objectives so everyone could understand why we were doing this work and how it ties to our users, most important thing. And if there was anything additional that we needed to consider in the back end. Does DevOps need to work something out? Do we need to understand? Does there need to be a TDD, a technical document? And then I spelled out who exactly would be working on that document. The next thing I would recommend is success metrics. What does success look like? How do we measure success? How can we prove that the work that we did was useful? And we can come back to this universal document that we all agree upon and say, we nailed it, or it's time to iterate. We messed up. We need to fix it. I also list out the requirements. You might do this as user stories. That's fine. However, you can put the scope of work and everything that needs to be completed within this scope so everybody understands and you can get a really good feel for an estimated time to completion. So here are just some that I have, and I didn't spell them out fully, you know, I don't want to give you everything my company's doing, but UI, we have different back-end things that need to be done, different workflows, and then all the different metrics that we need to figure out. I like to add cost considerations. Maybe this works for you, maybe it doesn't. For me, we present to our CTO, that is important to him. What is this going to cost us? Some different cost considerations, your time and effort for your devs. This can also be training. Are you doing training as a product manager? Is there someone else that needs to do that? That is time, that is effort from their usual day-to-day. So keep that in mind. Anything that would be costly for you. Any assumptions. I know we all like to pretend we don't have biases. We do, and that's okay. We all have them. So here you're gonna list out any assumptions that might be made about the work to be done. What I have here is Dan and James at our company are the closest I could get to our clients for this epic. So I'm just letting everybody know they are the ones who told us this is the most common case. So we all understand that going in. I like to list out milestones, especially when it comes to sales. What are the deliverables that I can say we did this, this comes next, and we can hit those for sales, for your CTO, for everybody in the company. Oh, that's what I get for free Wi-Fi. The joy. And finally, not finally, but one of the last things I do is I have open questions. Open questions that I have. What about this? How are we going to accomplish that? I also leave a lot of this open because as you have this kickoff call, other people are going to have questions. This is a fantastic way to document it and have that universal truth for everybody on your team. And the last two things, now, as I mentioned before, I know some of you have small teams. If you have a UX or UI person, add any screens that you plan to use, if there are any screens being built, any functionality that you can give a visual. This is a high fidelity one. I'm lucky. I have a UX and UI person. You may not. Who cares? Draw it. Draw it out on a piece of paper, get it into this document, just so you can see a visual of the work to be done. This is the most important thing you will put on this document. Out of scope. What will we not be completing in this epic? It makes it very clear to everybody across all internal stakeholders, this will not be completed. This will be done in another time. And finally, I like to reference, and this is something that is in Confluence. It might not be in other products, but I like Confluence. I reference any other BRD, Epic Doc, whatever you're calling it, that might affect or have effects on this BRD that we're talking about. That way, when your engineers go in, they don't have to search for it. Boom, it's right there. And they can read up on it if they have any additional questions outside of that. So now we know the right people in the room, the right content that we're presenting. Let's talk about the right relationships. It is all about building trust. I said at the beginning, I truly believe that if you have trust with your group, you build better products every time. Collaborating with all these different folks is going to just continue to build that trust. When you're asking for the opinions from your engineer, from your UX, UI, from your data scientist or architect, it builds that trust and you get these better products. You will continue to move quicker and you will have more successes, I promise. So grow those relationships, have these meetings. In a perfect world, this is my trifecta. So if you only have 3 people in your meeting, this would be my perfect trifecta, the product trifecta. I'm sure you've heard it, there's many people who talk about it. You have your product manager, you have your UX UI, and you have your engineer who's going to be doing the work. Your product manager is going to tell you what's needed. They've done the research. They're looking at competitors. They're deciding this is what's needed and that's why it's valuable. Then you have your UX UI person saying, okay, what's usable, what's useful, what's desirable? And then you have your engineer who is going to smash your dreams, as they should, and they're going to tell you what's actually possible. Dreamers, reality. And you keep each other in line, and it just continues to flow. But when you have this relationship, it is fantastic, and the speed at which you can create just increases. So I'm sure you're sitting there going, okay, Megan, this is nice. You're telling me all these things about this call, but how do I actually implement this call at my company? So I'm going to give you steps. When I started off in product, I attended so many different things, and I always wanted a plan. Give me the plan. How do I do this? So I want to do that for you today. Start small. Do not pick your biggest epic or that huge thing on your roadmap. Something small, an export button. Sounds silly, but it is a feature. Somebody's got to build it. Start small and just do it. I am a huge believer in do it and ask for forgiveness. Works every time, I promise you, especially if you're successful. So you're going to use that small feature and then point to the success of having this kickoff call when it succeeds. and continue to do it. And then you can build up to those larger epics. So this thing right here came from my mentor who is here today. Her name is Jess, she's over here. Lovely Jess. I stole it from her and I use it all of the time. Just try it on. As humans, we hate change. I hate change. Everybody hates change. But when you can say something like, guys, just try it on. It's not written in stone. Let's just try the meeting. If it fails, if it doesn't work, okay, we go back to the way we used to do it. But I swear to you, just say this. It works every time. So you can thank Jess for that.
Thanks, Jess. Welcome.
Nailed it.
Got you.
So when do I have this kickoff call? This is the timeline that I use. Again, maybe it makes sense for you to shift a couple of these things. First step is discovery. That's you, product managers. You are out there, you are figuring things out, you're meeting with your UX UI team, you're getting those basic questions answered so that when you get to this engineering meeting, you have all your ducks in a row. So that's your first step. Your second step is to make that BRD, that epic doc, whatever you're gonna call it. You're gonna make that and get the answers from the data architects and your data science team. The reason I say that is there's going to be a lot of different moving parts. The more questions you get answered and come with prepared, the more successful this meeting will be. Step 3, that is your engineering kickoff call, the thing we're talking about today. So after your discovery, your BRD is done, and the BRD will take you some time, so make sure you allot that time. Then you're going to schedule that kickoff call. And step 4, good old sprint planning. So you can start getting that backlog ready, start grooming it, start story pointing, and start your sprint planning, if you work in sprints, which I'm assuming most of you do. So remember how I told you that I like to give steps? Here we are again. I'm gonna give you every step to get this going. Step 1, might sound crazy, but set up the kickoff meeting. Schedules are insane in product. The sooner you schedule this, the better. In my company, it usually takes about 2 weeks to get a meeting on certain people's calendars. So I will, step 1, set this meeting, and then start working on everything else. Set that meeting up, and here's some things to consider. Yes, I have to use Teams. You can feel bad for me. I know, thank you. You're gonna set an agenda. Everybody should know when they come in that meeting, what are you talking about? Why are you talking about it? This is a pretty basic agenda, but you get the point. Be aware of schedules. Sounds silly, but the more that you are respecting your team members' schedules, it makes a difference. It really does. Include the right people, as we talked about in the beginning, whoever they are in your company. Name the meeting appropriately. This may seem, again, silly, but you would be shocked at the names of meetings that I've seen. You go in, you go, what are we talking about? And nobody knows. So name it appropriately. Engineering kickoff call for list preview epic. Everybody knows. There's no question. Guys, no Fridays. Don't do it. Don't be the person that schedules the Friday meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, don't do this. Fridays are for catching up, they're for wrapping up, they're for getting ready for the next week. Don't do it, unless it's absolutely necessary. Your team will thank you. Step 2, now that you've scheduled that meeting, because you might have had to schedule it pretty far out, you're going to meet with your UX UI, like we talked about. I like a product called Miro. Do whatever works for you. I like Miro because it's real-time collaboration. This is an actual Miro board that me and my UX person used. We are trying to understand the flow state of a user using our dashboard, a salesperson, a very specific use case. And then we were just using our little Post-it notes and writing our ideas. But I can see her working and she can see me working as well. Makes it very fast and makes your meetings just great. So collaborate on what needs to be done and why. They're gonna have opinions. That collaboration builds that trust, builds that relationship. Use tools like Miro or whatever works for you. And then you're gonna come prepared to that kickoff call with your screens if you have a UX UI person. If you're doing it yourself, again, honestly, draw it on a piece of paper. Balsamic, if you're not great. I've used Balsamic before. It works. Get your point across. So now you're gonna prepare that BRD, PRD, whatever you call it. This is going, again, to be the biggest step you do, and it's going to take the most time. You are going to be in meetings, having these discussions, getting this together, so that when you have that engineering meeting, you have all your ducks in a row, and it's a successful meeting. Now you get to host that kickoff call. Again, this is I gave you real screenshots of things. This is me hosting that BRD that we looked at together for the list preview and profile. In it, I have my data architect, my head of product, myself, my engineering manager, and my UX UI person for any questions that involve UX UI changes. If engineers are smashing our dreams and saying, no, we can't do that, she can come up with other ideas and we can continue to move along. I have nothing against engineers. I love engineers. just so any engineers out there know. You're going to introduce your BRD topic, what it is, what you're going over. You're going to state your agenda. I cannot tell you how helpful that is when everybody understands we're going to talk about this, this, and this. We're going to accomplish this. We're going to go away with tasks to be done. You're going to present that full BRD. You're going to take everybody through it. You'll discuss. You'll get objections. Of course you will. You'll take notes on them. You will end the meeting, hopefully, with tasks to be completed. For me, what's worked might work for you, might not. At the top of the BRD, I will put the tasks to be done, who they're assigned to, and the date that we all agreed to it. That way, again, this BRD is that single source of truth that we can all come back to. Who is supposed to follow up on that? Great, it's Megan, she's gonna get that done. This question I also stole from my mentor. It is the fastest way to find out if you have consensus on what you just discussed. Do we feel safe to move forward? It's a yes or no question. If they do, yes, great, fantastic. Your BRD is ready to go. Start your sprint planning and your stand-ups. If people say no, that's absolutely fine. Ask them why. Why don't you feel safe? And dig into the nitty-gritty of what you still need to explore for them to feel safe. And finally, if it's accepted, go ahead and schedule those stand-ups and get your team going. I promise I have done it without the dumpster, and we got that dumpster fire situation, nightmare. When you do this engineering kickoff call, you will have success. You're gonna get the stakeholder buy-in because you have a team of people committed to the same goals, and you have it all written down. You're going to have clearer roadmaps. When you define these things and discuss it, everybody's on board, you have a better estimation of when you can complete things. Trust me, clearer roadmaps make CEOs much happier. And you will have better relationships in your team. As somebody who is obsessed with product culture, I love the relationships that I have with my team members, and as I said before, I think you build better products. This might seem like an odd slide, but when I was starting out in product and people would mention things, I would hear it and I wouldn't know what it was. So I just want to put down the different tools that I mentioned today with their logos in case you want to use them. So I talked about Miro. That's that real-time collaboration tool that I use with UX and UI. Logo there. And I use Confluence for our BRDs. They have fantastic templates. So you can use it, you can edit them, however it fits for you and your team. Once again, will say I'm obsessed with relationships. So I have some cards up here. They have my QR code because I hate trying to tell you how to find me on LinkedIn. You can search my name, obviously, but I do have QR codes on business cards. You can just scan it and connect if you want to. I think it's great talking to other product people. You're experiencing different things than I am. If anything I said during this talk resonates with you, you have more questions, reach out to me. I'd love to talk about it. I might be picking your brain about different things. I think we all make each other stronger the more that we talk about product. And I do want to say thank you to the sponsors. Scotty kind of already did this for me, but thank you to our sponsors. I am actually from the East Coast where you basically have to pay for everything. So this is fantastic that this is free. You guys have no idea. So special thanks to all the sponsors, which I do have here, for making this a free event and making it accessible to everybody. It's a big deal, guys. So thank you to everybody. And I will open it up for questions if you guys have any questions. Shoot.
So I have a question. You talked about the engineering team and
Sure.
the pushback based on the capabilities,
Yeah.
limitations, whatever. How many times have you had to push back on the pushback?
A lot. A lot. Basically every time. But it's okay. I don't think of it as a pushback. I think of it as, I love radical honesty and radical candor. Like radical candor all the way for me and my teams. That's fine. If you don't think it's going to work, why? Why can't we do that? And if they explain it to you and we really can't do that, then bring it back to the user. okay, well, how can we give the user the best experience if we can't do it this way? That's what I recommend. But every time, if I'm being honest. It's just a battle you're going to fight. Any other questions? That was a great one.
You talked about having an engineer during your call.
Yeah.
Would you recommend against having more than one engineer? So sometimes you'll have a team of 2 or 3 or 4
Yep.
working on something.
I would say if you can get on your teams, you have an engineering, like a head engineer on your team, I would have the head engineer over having everybody. I think truly more than 6 people, it just gets messy. So have the head engineer, and then it gives them the opportunity to delegate and to kind of have that role, you know, even stronger. So head engineer. Sure.
You talked about a PRD a lot.
Yeah.
And this might be just like a nomenclature
Yeah.
thing, but PRDs versus product briefs, do you have a viewpoint?
No. Listen, there are people who do. Jess would love to, I'm sure, tell you more about it.
I warned her about that.
Yeah, she did. The Nomen, that's why I made sure. I work for a very like corporate company right now. I worked in a startup before.
Right.
In the startup, we called them Epic Docs. In this company, we call them business requirement stuff. To me, it's the same thing. There are people who have business ones that focus more on your business, on the money, and then there's product ones that strictly your product. So to me, no. Let's do one document and just save time, but it depends on your company. Go based on your company.
With any team that's trying to do more of like an empowered team model,
Yeah.
where the engineers are more involved in the problem solving rather than just execution,
Yes.
how does this change? And when is there a single kickoff? Is it multiple kickoffs? How do you manage it?
I love that question. So if you want to involve your engineer sooner before the kickoff call, just schedule a meeting with the person that's going to be working on it or your head engineer. I do that a lot and pick their brain. That way they feel more involved, and they should be involved. They're going to be doing the work. So yeah, multiple meetings, but once you come to this one, you'll probably have a little bit of that alignment already, and then you can involve everybody else. So schedule a meeting with just that one person. Great question. Others?
All right, since you're just talking about tools, Miro versus like Google Docs or using something inside Google Docs.
I love Miro. I do. I've tried a bunch of different tools. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that I used for collaborating. I just like Miro. I like the templates. Listen, Google Docs works. It's free. That's always a positive, you know. I'd go with Miro though. If you can get your company to do it, it is worth the money. And you can all use the same login.
Miro does let you like move around everywhere, so you don't have to like, a lot of times Google Docs you can only do it in a certain way. Miro is like literally having paper
That you're
the
drawing on,
screen.
yeah.
And you can type anywhere, and you can go very minuscule to like, it's so easy.
Yeah, you can have, so like for your whole Epic, so for an example, I'm working on different connectors for our dashboard. I have one Miro board, but it is this connector, that connector, and it lives in one space. You can zoom in, you can zoom out. So when I zoom out, it looks like a nightmare, but it's everything in one place, and then I can zoom into what I need. So I highly recommend Miro. Yeah.
Have you been in an organization where maybe like BRDs
Yeah.
or PRDs or whatever we want to call them are not utilized? And
Sure.
how do you get people to like
Get on board with it?
get on board? Yeah.
I did. So my previous job, clearly from the dumpster, it's hard. It's another buy-in. It's change. I would recommend the just try it on situation. But the more that you can have a single source of truth, I promise you, it makes all the difference because everybody has access to it. It's not like it's a Google Doc that you own that nobody can see and it's a big secret what you're working on. Anybody can access that. Your salespeople can access that if they want to. So I know change is hard, but just do it and they'll get on board.
And tactically, sorry, just
No, please go.
from like a tools perspective,
Sure.
do you typically like link whatever epic or feature you're working on to that Confluence?
So yeah, so Confluence is actually a Jira tool, and we use Jira for all of our sprints. I've also used ClickUp, which I love.
Okay.
But yeah, I can link all my stories through Jira. They tie together. It makes it very easy to use the tool that integrates with one another. Do you use Jira where you are now?
Yeah, sure.
Confluence is great
Okay.
for that, yep. I link everything because I'm anal retentive, if I'm honest. So I don't want anyone to have to find it for themselves. So Epic is linked in there, everybody who's working on it, and then all my user stories are linked as well. So they can easily, this is a requirement, these are the stories tied to that, and then they can go right to Jira and say,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Sure, of course.
How is it that you have to use Teams, but you're not using Azure?
Great question. I don't have an answer for that. I don't have an answer for that. Yeah. I don't want to say anything bad about Microsoft in case they're listening. I don't know. I don't know why we're allowed to use other tools, but thank God. That is what I will say. There was somebody back there, yeah?
So for the BRDs with features, because
Sure.
naturally they evolve.
Yep.
In your experience, have you had more success creating phases within that document?
Yes.
Using it as a running list versus starting a new one?
So I've done both, and I know that's not the easiest, but it depends on the scope of work. So if something makes sense, for example, I'm working on these connectors. They're all going to be a similar functionality, but we're doing it in phases. So for that, I'll use one BRD. If it's very different, the feature, go ahead and start a new one,
So
I think.
often we have versioning where we deliver the first
Yep.
based off the first discussion, and it'll evolve tangentially.
Yeah.
It'll have some minor tweaks, but
Sure.
the overall feature and purpose is the same.
Then I would
Still say split it off or almost like rename a version underneath it.
honestly copy it, use the exact same one and add your additions and rename it. That way you can get the evolution of it and you'll have all those documents that people can reference back to.
The names still follow it.
I would, and then keep the name, maybe add the new piece of functionality or whatever that's gonna be. So if it's, can you give me an example of like what it's called, if you're allowed?
We usually run into it with like uploading.
Oh,
features.
okay.
So it'll start out with like we just need to upload documents.
Sure.
And then as soon as they see that come to life, it's like we need this document format and we need it from this source.
Okay.
Like, it kind of splits into pairs.
Yeah.
It's still the same feature, but I believe we start on another feature at that same time in our like client relationship phase.
Yeah.
Our product phases are not in alignment with that. So we kind of lose people whether we version the doc or if we do it in phases and bring more people into the document.
It's an organizational preference, so do what works for you and your team. I personally would make a new BRD, keep the title the same, and then with a new piece of functionality that you're doing. So uploading, and then whatever file that you're working on.
One and then 1.1.
Yep, exactly, yeah. On the original, like for actually the BRD that I showed you guys, I actually spelled out the different phases on the first one and said like phase 1, we're gonna conquer this, phase 2, we're gonna conquer this. And then from that, I tagged it to the next BRD. So if somebody looked at the original one, they could see kind of where it was going. But it's an organizational preference. Talk to your team about it and what they feel the most comfortable with. You put your hand up and then
I did. Well, I had very specific.
Oh.
You mentioned beforehand that you were familiar with Product Board.
Yeah.
But you didn't list it as a tool. Did you
I didn't.
use Product Board?
I didn't use, no, I just like them as a
Okay.
company. This is silly, but I like them on LinkedIn. I like the things they post.
Yeah.
I like their ideas. I like how they see things. So that's really my
You use
experience.
Product Boards, but their ability to capture the description of the BRD or whatever
Yeah.
is sort of limited.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you, well, it doesn't matter because you don't actually use
Yeah.
it, but if you were like linking your Confluent stocks into there instead of actually trying to use their.
You know what? I think Confluence integrates with a lot of different tools. So I would look into it if you could link to that specifically. You can always use the URL too and then get people there.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I haven't used them. I've used Monday. I've used a lot of different ones. We've tried Monday. We've tried ClickUp, which was newer, but I did love ClickUp if you haven't tried ClickUp for different sprints and things. So sorry that I can't give you more on Product Board.
I got another tactical.
Let's do it. Let's try to tackle it.
We're kind of in the process of standing this up in our organization.
Mhm.
So, is there a point in time where you kind of get your PRD and you sort of set it in stone, and then any other updates you do in the Epic?
I
on
change
Jira?
it constantly.
Okay.
I change it constantly. If it's a big change, there's a discussion that happens.
Okay.
I highlight it, I tag people. You can tag people, which is fantastic. But usually if there's a giant change, there's a discussion that's happening. I edit them.
Okay.
So
Good to know.
again, organizational preference. Maybe you have people who are like, this is it, and this is what we're doing, and nothing's gonna change, and that's fine. But in my company, no, we edit them all the time.
Okay.
Has editing never like come to bite you later?
Oh, it has. Yeah, it absolutely has. Yeah.
Like, we had that discussion.
Yeah, we had the discussion, and then I was like, oh no, I didn't edit the BRD, and somebody looked at it. Yes, absolutely, of course. So you do open yourself up to that risk, but I still prefer editing, even with the risk. Any others? Oh, you gave me a look though when you did it. You were like, I'm nervous. Okay, go ahead.
For your PRD, your feature descriptions were much more simplistic than what our team has done
Yeah,
in the past.
that's okay.
So do you tend to do one document for like one user objective? Because we normally have like a section of an application we're doing with all the actions that they can take versus
Yes.
just one start to finish path.
Yeah.
So in your experience,
Mine is a use case. Mine is one user persona. So we split ours user personas.
so it'd be more beneficial to have like a project charter with those outlined and have
Yes.
3 or 4 documents in that.
So in Confluence, you can actually have an outline of different things. So you could have a different section for each user. You could do it however you want, and then someone can just go to your outline and click and get to that section. Yeah, we do one per user persona. And I'm very lucky in the sense that I work for a company that has 2 user personas right now. Thank you, God. Because I've worked in a company where we had like 6, 7, 8. So right now we have 2. So it's pretty easy. You get one and then the other one, sales or marketing. And that's it. So great question. Anybody else? Good.
Great talk to begin with.
Oh, thanks.
So I'm an engineer by profession.
Oh.
Also I'm a budding founder.
I do love engineers. I promise. Okay.
But I'm also a budding founder, so I hear both shoes and I see both sides of the spectrum.
Yep.
First question, mostly a request. Is this material available? Is this simplicity available or something that I'm really used to?
Oh, my material? I can make it available. I don't know. I would know. Yeah, I'll ask Scotty if it can be. Sure, I would provide the slides.
Yeah.
Probably have to like cross some stuff out, but yeah, I might blur some things, but yes. I am available at LinkedIn. You can always, yeah, as Jess said, yeah.
And a question that I had is around, do you usually tend to experience a lot around, you would think that your product roadmap is a straight line and you would have all of your roadmap in session, but however, components that you build bring breaking changes or
Yeah.
something fails and stuff like that, and now you're going back to, the intent
Yes.
session all over again, or do you handle that in terms of going back to your roadmapping session versus do you exactly write those components and you do project management?
You mean the changes in the roadmap? Do I?
Well, the subdivisions that usually come up, during while you handle some of these changes or some of these hurdles, roadblocks.
Okay, so I think I'm going to answer your question, but if I don't, let me know. If I hit any roadblocks with an epic or something like that, I believe it falls on the product manager to keep their product roadmap. So if something comes up, something changes, it's on me to then adjust and meet with my internal stakeholders and get their buy-in for why this roadmap is changing. I don't believe in any roadmaps more than 3 months, but that's me, because let's be honest, it's changing. So I will give a 3-month roadmap, usually when I do it, on what I'm focused on. And if any roadblocks come, there needs to be a discussion with my internal stakeholders saying, yes, we approve this, we understand the ramifications of that change, and I'm a brick in, brick out person. If we're putting this in, you're losing this. Are we all on board? So that's how I handle it, and I do think that's a product manager's responsibility.
Yeah.
Did that answer that?
Yeah,
Okay.
More often than not, we do try and tackle this as early as possible. Like,
Yeah.
During the roadmapping session, we like to really catch these dependencies and blockers.
Yeah.
Down the road, but however, sometimes it's
Listen,
dynamic.
yeah, sometimes something is going to come in and, some new technology came out, some new competitor just added something and your salespeople are crying because they can't sell anything anymore. So yeah, we've all been there, but I do think it falls on the product manager to figure that out, adjust the roadmap, and get the buy-in from stakeholders. Yeah, and we actually meet every week. I don't know if that's helpful, but my head of engineering, all the PMs, UX, and our CTO meet every Monday, and we look at our roadmap of what's to come, and we decide, because we have limited back-end resources, so we like to understand what they're going to be working on, and we prioritize work because there are 3 PMs who need back-end. We all decide together, and we all agree together, like, okay, this is the focus. So if you have something that comes up, sorry, Megan, they're taken. You need to be doing discover work or something else. Yeah.
Takeaway there is that you have an engagement model that basically adjusts your expectations or
think managing expectations, I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
Plus it helps with your sales team too. I feel product and sales are always. So the more that you can manage those expectations, the better for everybody. Any others? All right, gang, thank you so much. As I mentioned, QR codes on business cards if you need them, or if you found me on LinkedIn, love to chat about product problems. So thanks everybody.